All right, there we go. Welcome to I'm Rachel of Rainbow Rach. And I'm just excited to help everyone connect with your ancestors, to dive into like how we even begin to heal our lineage, how we even begin to do that kind of shadow work, what that process looks like, and understanding that we don't have to be perfect in order to be healing our generational lines. But if anything comes up for you during this, please feel free to put it in the chat, in the comments. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I'm here to serve. I'm here to, just help you start healing. I really started digging into my own healing in 2012. And, in that process, I was able to grow a lot and see that it's very important for me to put myself first, especially being someone with like depressive tendencies and that kind of thing. I know how important it is for me to get my alone time and for me to do the things that fill up my cup. And parenting fills up your cup, but in a completely different way than like spending time with yourself does. I know that I am happiest when I can fill up my cup and then go overflow into my family and go overflow into my friends, because I filled up my own cup first. So that was super important to me. And I also want to show my kids that, it's in this cycle of martyrdom. Like, I don't have to be a martyr to be a good mom. Like, you come first. You have to put yourself first. I feel like in order to have a fulfilling life, like otherwise you don't have boundaries and you say yes to everything. And then everyone kind of just is taking until you have nothing else to give. And that's a space where, again, a lot of parents get into that. And I wanted to avoid that. And I wanted to show my kids how to take care of themselves, how to do self-care. Like, I'll go, visit a friend. And if my son's like, oh, where are you going? I just tell him like, oh, mommy's going to go spend time with her friends. This is something that makes me feel good. And I really try to like get that across to him and explain that, so that he can see that example, or even just mommy needs a nap right now, or, he sees me doing work. He's like, well, why do you have to work? I'm like, well, I don't have to. I love working and I like doing what I want to do. Right. For me, and the healing that I want to bring to my lineage is building on that generational wealth from a place of doing work that I absolutely love, that lights me up, that I feel like is a gift to do every day, where I'm sharing my gifts with the world and I'm just lit up by what I'm doing. I think that we all like have this, I don't even want to say purpose, because I feel like that's can have a word with a lot of weight and pressure to it. We all have a unique perspective. And I think more and more people are stepping into doing work that they really love. And again, like on one of my sides, there is just a history of yelling and like anger. And I can see it like in my uncles and one of my parents and, and their siblings. And it just kind of trickled down to like the kids in each family. And I personally, like, there's nothing wrong with anger. I talk about how anger is very sacred. Sometimes you need to just yell shit out to get it out of you. But yeah, I think anger is sacred. It's nothing to be ashamed of. But in my own healing process, and this is where I want to say, you don't have to be perfect in your healing process. You don't have to, you're not like done whenever you've reached the point where, oh, I no longer yell and I'm no longer angry. I no longer have these bad reactions. I think there's like step-by-step growth that happens. So like for me and my son, he's seen me have these big reactions where I yell. And unfortunately, he's learned that, oh, that's how mommy handles when she gets frustrated sometimes. So that's how I'm going to do it. And like seeing that and having that mirror has really like woken me up to the fact that, wow, I really, have some work to do there, which is not bad. I don't guilt myself. I'm not like critically speaking to myself about, oh, I really got to get that together and because I could go down that path and really let the inner critic take over and really like get down on myself. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is just to do your best. It's not the point of healing, is what I mean. It's really just to do our best and show up as our best self and continue to be our best self every day. And even though healing isn't linear, I say that all the time of like, some days you're going to feel up and up and up and up, and then maybe you'll have some big reaction and it feels like you've taken a few steps back, but that's the healing process. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to change these patterns. Like these are ingrained patterns, but we have the power to do that. We don't have to sit here and say, oh, well, all my family is full of yellers and all my family has anger problems, so that's just what I'm destined for. It's like, that isn't an empowering thing to think. And we also aren't victims of our circumstances. Like we get to thrive in our circumstance, and we also have the power to change any circumstance that we're in. I fully believe, change your mind, change your life. And, that's backed by the placebo effect. Like if you believe it, it's going to happen. So yeah, I think that we just don't have to be perfect in this process. And I think, and I think too, by me just, like I said, seeing my son's reactions and being like, oh, wow, I got to work on that, and I'm not saying that in a negative way where I'm downing myself. It's really just like, oh, that's interesting. That's something that I should probably look at, because it's important for me personally to do that work so that my son is set up like even better than I was. I want my son to be able to, my sons now, 8 days post birth. But I want my children to be able to look at my example and see like, wow, she handles herself so well in these moments where she could really be pissed. But I've seen how my mom handles her emotions and works through things, and doesn't just explode in anger every time. Not that to say that I'm never going to explode in anger, but for them to be able to see like a healthy expression of that is super important to me. And even if you don't have kids, healing generational wounds it can be just reparenting yourself, like giving yourself the love, especially if you didn't. I know a lot of us can have like abandonment wounds and those kind of things pop up. So it's about like loving on yourself, nurturing yourself, giving yourself the love that you wish a parent maybe was able to give, but for whatever reason, they're just not able to be in that space. And we have the power to reparent ourselves and really just nurture ourselves in that process, so that we can heal and that we don't hold on to this resentment, because holding on to resentment is like drinking poison yourself and expecting someone else to be hurt from it. Like it only hurts us to have that poison of resentment in our body. It can lead to illnesses because, like I said, we're holding things in our body. It can just lead to, I fully believe that we can, hold tension in our body. And if it stays there for long enough without being moved out through movement, through energy work, through anger release, whatever, then it can get stuck in our body and cause diseases and illnesses and that kind of thing. So I fully, believe in just moving it through and trying to keep my thoughts clear here. Again, I just gave birth a week ago. So I'm still like coming back to reality a little bit. Like in your own life, look at the ways that you were parented, look at the ways that you were raised, look at the ways that your parents behaved that you thought, ooh, I don't like that. Or the ways that you thought, wow, I really admire my parent for how they do this and how they do this. Like one of the things I really admire about my mom is how compassionate she is and how she does just think of everyone above herself. And while, that can creep into the martyrdom category, I do really admire that about her. My dad, he's taught me to always see the rainbow. And that's like what I named my business around, is kind of seeing the silver lining of things and seeing the healing and everything. And I really admire that about my dad. And so it's not only about looking at the things that we didn't like about our parents, it's about looking at the things that we admire and that we really like and enjoy about our parents. And if there isn't anything you can think of, that's okay. But even just looking at it and bringing awareness to it, I think is a super just good practice to have. okay, and this is a really big one. This kind of goes back to the martyrdom thing. Um, and I think that a lot of our parents kind of had this mentality and maybe pushed it on us too, of where resting is lazy. You're lazy if you don't get straight A's, or you're lazy if you, and that reminds me too, like another thing I admire about my parents is they never were on our asses to get really good grades. Like they would just say, "Did you do your best?" And we would obviously be like, yes or no, whatever the answer is. And that was like enough for my parents. My parents didn't need to have the A's. You know, it was rare that my brother or I would get a C in a class. But if we did, it wasn't like it was the end of the world. It was just, okay, well, did you try your best? Yeah. Okay, well, then that's fine. That's good enough for me. And that's again something that I want to pass down to my kids. It's like showing them that they're worth more than a grade. Their mental health is worth more than a grade. I don't expect them to get all straight A's. I expect them to do their best, but that doesn't mean that your best is going to get you an A every single time. But that kind of, coming back to the martyrdom thing, that comes this idea that you have to be productive and you only can rest if you've earned rest, I think has been passed down to a lot of us. It's the society that we currently live in as Americans too. You know, a world of capitalism tells you that you have to constantly go, 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 to really get anywhere in life. And while I think there's a super important piece of hard work, but it also, you get to balance it with rest. Like we get to put rest as the priority. We get to, if we wake up and we feel like shit one day, we get to prioritize our mental health and take a mental health day. Or like even at my last job, I communicated with my boss, like, hey, I'm having like this really intense bout of depression right now. I need the next 2 days off. And he was like, yeah, done. And that was something that even within a couple years I had shifted, because 2 years before I even asked my boss that, I wouldn't have asked, an employer that before. But I knew, in my healing process, I was like, my mental health is more important than showing up and being productive at a job. And that's something I think that we all really get to honor in ourselves. And I think that that is changing in society, but it takes us like speaking up and give ourselves permission to rest and give ourselves that leeway and the love and the nurturing to put ourselves first and put our mental health first, because we're worth it. We don't have to run ourselves into the ground to feel like we are not a piece of shit. You can watch Netflix all day and just lay on the couch and not be a piece of shit. So I think slowing down is really important. Quieting the inner critic is important. And then like making peace with the past even is, with your past and how you want to transmute any pain that was done to you is super important. Those are actually the first 3 modules of my course, Heal Your Shit. And it's a 5-week course right now. It's only going to build. I have so many ideas, but being in kind of my rebirth stage of just getting birth to my second son, I'm again like balancing that rest and the productivity. Like that's even been a kind of a struggle for me lately. Like I was so ready to not be pregnant that I got into this space of not remembering, I guess, that healing takes a lot of time when you birth a human, and your body needs to rejuvenate and heal and rest and sleep. And so I'm like kind of in an antsy phase of like, I want to do yoga and I want to rollerblade and I want to do all of these things. But I know that me putting my self-care and just putting my nurturing myself as my top priority, that's like what's going to help me heal the fastest. And so how can I make peace with having to be, at least the last week, it was like a pretty bedbound week. I needed to stay in bed and I needed to not push myself to be productive, even though I felt like I had things to do and I had things to work on. And I think that's a really big challenge for people just in today's world and today's society, just to really put yourself first and not put productivity first, and really like reframing how we see productivity, because rest can be super productive. The more that I rest, the more that I feel good. And then, if I usually try to work when I'm inspired, and when I'm working, when I'm in that inspired state, work just flows. I could get like something that would have taken me 3 hours in a forced space to get done. It would take me like 30 minutes. So that's kind of at least my, a benefit to resting too. Like you're going to actually make yourself more productive on the back end because you are putting yourself first. You are putting your self-care and your nurturing first. I even noticed that like with this postpartum period, I didn't take a bath yesterday, and I've been taking an hour-long bath every day. And I soak in Epsom salts and these like beautiful postpartum herbs that just help with healing. And I noticed such a difference in how my body felt yesterday because I didn't take that time for me. And when I'm not taking that time for me, I notice that I'm getting into the martyr victim mode. And again, that's not what I want to do. So being clear about, being clear about looking at what in your lineage, like you don't like how it was done, so that you can be aware of it. And when it comes up, you can choose again. And again, we're not going to be perfect in this. It's not going to, we might like fuck it up sometimes, but you really can't fuck anything up. So remembering that, being patient with yourself, coming back to, hey, I caught it. I was aware of it. And that is truly what matters, because the awareness is the first piece that we need to start healing. And I want to also say too, like our ancestors are always there. This is a very easy process to connect with them. And I think that we kind of tend to overcomplicate things, but they're always there. They're waiting for us. We can connect with them in so many ways, but even just getting still and making our awareness open to their presence, it just feels like the easiest thing for me. We want to make sure that we have the utmost respect and honor for our ancestors, and not just come to them when we need them, but also just giving them thanks and giving them gratitude. And, you can do that in so many ways, like in the words that I just spoke. You can fix them a plate of food. Like if you're eating dinner and you have some extra food, you want to like put it on a little plate and intentionally have that for your ancestors. I know a lot of people like doing that. Even having a little altar where you have a picture of them or something, but while your eyes are closed, while you're in this meditative space, like see what comes to mind about offerings that you want to give to your ancestors as a thank you for being with you and never leaving your side and making shit happen on your behalf. And again, don't overthink it. Like if nothing's coming to you, then you don't need to force it. I would just make time every day to sit and really allow your awareness to be open to your ancestors coming in. So I think it's important to remember that a lot of this is intuition and trusting, like kind of these more woo-woo principles, that it's not everything that you can see, it's what you can feel and sense and just know. And I actually talk about connecting with your intuition also and heal your shit. And I'm going to dive into just telling you a little bit about that. It's again, like I said, a 5-week course. Each module has journal prompts to kind of help you dive deeper into those topics. But it's basically like the video library I wish I had in 2012 when I first started my healing journey. I feel like it wouldn't have taken me, almost 10 years to get to the point that I'm at now if I had just had all this information up front. So it's kind of like just the healing Bible, like of what I want to give to people that are maybe just awakening to their healing journey. Maybe they're on this healing journey already. And it's something that I also need reminders of. Like I come back to it all the time. I listen to these modules when I'm like being critical of myself and I need the reminder to stop listening to the inner critic. I go listen to that module. When I might be beating myself up over a past decision, I go listen to the Making Peace with the Past module. Even this like looking at generational wounds is a way where we can start this process of healing and just looking at her shit, being honest with ourselves. That's really like the biggest shadow work. That's the most transformative, is just looking at your own shit, being honest with yourself about that shit, and then transmuting things that you don't enjoy, that you want to change, and that kind of thing. So again, I wanted to stand a little bit longer, but again, my boobs are about to explode with milk. And my baby is probably hungry. So thank you so much for being here and for listening and for being, on this healing path. And yeah, and I will see you guys on the next one. That's all I have for you. And good luck in, healing your lineages. It doesn't have to be hard to connect with your ancestors. It can be really, really easy. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you guys soon.